Well, welcome. I'm Electra Porzel, the director of the Language of Consciousness Institute. And if you've been following my YouTubes, this is a continuation of the conversations about old stories and next stories that Charles Eisenstein proposed in a blog in January. And what I'm doing is simply getting together with people who want to just talk about it, to look at all the different facets of it, not only how the old stories impacted how what our culture has believed and acted through as belief systems and norms, and what would change. Is this next story really rising? And what would change about humanity and about the way we live if more people kind of stood in that story instead of the old story? So the story that we're looking at today is the forces of nature are indifferent to humanity. In other words, they don't care whether you're there or not. The other beings of nature are indifferent or hostile to human beings. Progress, therefore, comes through domination of nature. Well, that's a old belief system that you have to dominate nature. I think that humanity has been indifferent to the forces of nature and has been actually hostile to them. We have gone into areas without looking at the balance of life there. We've gone into areas and took land away from the people who live there. We've introduced birds and all sorts of animals to areas that ended up killing local birds, local fauna. So I think it's more on human beings' idea that we get to do whatever we will do and nature will just bow to us and make amends. The idea that there's an unending supply of good air and healthy earth and all of that, and that's not true. I will say that the forces of nature are indifferent to us in that if they're impacted by us, they have to play out the consequences of that in the way we're watching with climate change now, right? The storm can't stop because people are getting hurt. The water doesn't run over something because someone's in the way. So in that case, they're doing whatever they have to do in order to come to a new balance or homeostasis. And so nature and the forces of nature are just different than humans, and they're impacted and affected by what humans do. So an attitude of domination where I'm not going to listen to you and we're trying to force a new correlate on how they interact and interrelate and are independent is nuts. You can't do that. It's a system that is millions of years old and sustains and maintains itself over time for the survival of all beings on this planet. So the old story really isn't working. So what would be the next story or the new story that we could embrace that would help us live, collaborate with, and cooperate with the forces of nature so that we can create a sustainable future for our kids and our grandkids and all the generations we hope will come? So that story is the universe is generous. We can thrive by cooperating with the forces of nature and the rest of life. I would say not just cooperating, collaborating. Our job is for the future. If we want land that is healthy enough that will grow food for our great-grandchildren, waters that will be plentiful so they'll have enough to drink. If we want them to be able to sustain and maintain good lives, we have to do something now. And we have to start cooperating with nature, giving it what it needs. Consider what it needs as far as ecosystems around it. Provide a support and protective for that. Human beings can't have whatever they want. And that may mean that, no, you can't build houses on land that has no water and expect that somehow that water is going to appear we are losing all our groundwater. We can't do that. And it depends on local governments to say no to developers. I know in Albuquerque, what was it? There was a developer who built some very expensive homes under one mayor who said, yeah, go do it, even though the rules said no. Next mayors came in and the whole town said, no, there would be no water provided to that development. So now there's, oh God, probably 10, 15, how, 10, 50%, 70% of that development is empty. Why? Because it can't have water. They don't have water. So all this development in the West has probably got to ease up. We have to use water better. We have to look at practices in our farming industry and our agriculture that feeds the land back. We may be choosing to cut back on the amount of feed grains, which means you cut back on the amount of beef, let's say beef or chickens, so that the land can create food for people instead of food for animals. I don't know all of the things that may happen, but I do know that future generations have to live in a cooperative, collaborative manner with the needs of nature so that they can thrive and they can have a life that's enjoyable and a life that's healthy. So in his next story, I say that's the only story that's available to us if we want our grandkids and our great-great-great-great-grandkids to thrive. And it means now that you and I and even my adult children, we start making changes in what we support. Our government officials have to change how they vote, the positions they take. I was just listening to NPR, and there's organizations that are trying to fight the solar industry. God knows why, but they make money that way, so they're going to do that. We have to just say no to the people who are not looking to the future. And that's that. So look in your own lives and start to say, what has nature provided me? Think of the walks in the parks, the hikes in the hills, the biking on the mountain trails. Those are gifts from nature to us. What have I provided nature? Where have I changed how I live my life or supported efforts in my state for the protection of nature, for the protection of animals and plants and birds? That's the role you and I can play. It's how we live our life so we can enjoy the beauty of nature, and we can also give nature what it needs so that it has the wetlands, it has the prairies, it has the renewed land, so that our great-great-great-grandchildren will have what they need. So that's my short story, my short take on Charles Einstein's old story and next story. And I'll see you next week after many wonderful conversations. Thank you.